Alright, so this is my Secret Invasion Episode 2 review. And it starts off with a speed run recap of the Captain Marvel movie. And specifically where Nick Fury is involved. About him wanting to help the Skrulls get a new home. So now we fast forward 2 years, and they're having problems finding a home. And Nick Fury says, I'm going to keep looking for a home. I promise I'm going to find you a home. But until then, help me protect this one. So the Skrulls are all in on this. And we meet up with a woman who brings him Gravik. And that's how they first meet. Gravik is, of course, sad because he lost his parents in the Kree-Skrull War. And I believe that woman who introduced Fury to Gravik was the same woman who came and got Monica at the end of WandaVision. But anyway, so I'm getting the feeling that the reason that Gravik is as good as he is now is because he was trained by Fury. And we've seen how a old and disheveled Fury is still a badass. I mean, you can see that he's a little discombobulated still, but he still has skills. It's not like he's completely lost it. But we also see the fallout of what happened at the end of last episode. And a Russian policeman takes Fury away, which is, of course, Talos. And we see Gaia. She sees Maria Hill lying on the ground bleeding out. I honestly thought that she was going to come and save her. And by that I mean, and I put that in quotes because, you know, she walks around, and I don't know if it was just a comfort thing, but she certainly walks around like she was wearing a bulletproof vest or something underneath. Because what she was wearing was pretty bulky. So either the actress has gained weight, which, no judgment, that's a thing. People do that as they get older. Or she was wearing a bulletproof vest. However, that didn't happen, and Fury and Talos are on a train. And there's a couple of Russians who are looking for Nick Fury. Well, they just say a black American. And a woman comes to the compartment and is like, yeah, you have a better chance of finding an alien. And they're like, yeah, you're right. And I'm like, the Skrulls have been living in Moscow for how many years at nuclear power plants? And people are... And then I remembered what's happening right now with the war in Ukraine. And yeah, that checks out. That totally checks out, that people have no clue what's going on. I mean, these guys are just... It seems like train security, not the higher-ups. And even them, they might not know what's happening. Because you would think that the higher up the food chain you go, the more they would recognize Nick Fury. But anyway, so Talos turns back into Talos. Well, the human version of Talos. And they start talking. And so Nick Fury starts talking about racism to Talos. Which, considering that they're in hiding and that the people who are aware are afraid of Skrulls, is it really, wise to teach them about racism when they probably encounter it? But most of these people probably don't go out unless they look human anyway, so maybe they didn't encounter that. Based on what Talos was trying to do, I'm gonna say no. But anyway, Nick Fury tells him about this game he used to play with his mom. Whether that's true or he was just using it as a long preamble to grill Talos. So he plays Tell Me Something I Didn't Know. And so Nick Fury has this great way of telling when someone's lying. Just like Gravik, which is why I'm thinking he was trained by Fury, and now he's coming back to bite Fury in the ass. So, Talos admits that there were 1 million Skrulls refugees that weren't part of the Emperor's colonies. Now, my question is, why couldn't they live with the Emperor? Are they that is this group such horrible people that nobody wants them? I mean, we already know they're having a hard time finding a homeworld. And Talos, after the snap, thought, oh, well, this planet has so much more room now. Let me get the rest of the refugees. Which, you can't blame him. That sounds like a sound theory. I mean, he had no idea if this was going to be remedied or not. So, but Fury gets pissed at him that he didn't know that there were 1 million Skrulls on Earth. My question is, well, I guess this happened during the snap, so no, that I guess in that case he wouldn't know that all these ships were coming with refugees because he wasn't around. But so Nick Fury gets super pissed at Talos for bringing all these people because humans can't even get along with each other, as proof of what he said about racism when he was growing up. And but yeah, I would love to know why they couldn't join the Emperor's colony. Because Talos knows about that the Emperor had found a separate faction. So, is it like here on Earth where it's not, like Fury said, humans can't even get along with each other? It's that type of thing that these Skrulls were not welcomed by the Emperor? Or, I would love to know why the Emperor didn't want them. Because you would think that would be the simplest solution, to go to wherever the Emperor is. Makes perfect sense. So, he tells Talos, okay, bye. This is your stop. Because he's super pissed. So Talos gets out of the train, and of course looking like a woman. And Nick is then trying to figure out what to do now. So then we next see him at the, well, I wouldn't say the funeral, but bringing Maria home on the plane. And her mother is there. So at this point, I'm actually hoping that Maria is actually dead, because doing that to the mother, that's just nasty, to make the mother think that she's dead. But like I said, maybe the only person who knows that she isn't dead is Maria Hill. But again, that's a shitty thing to do to your mother. Even if it's turns out for the greater good, that's still kind of shitty. But so she asks Nick, nobody's telling me what happened. So Fury tells her a little bit. He didn't lie. I mean, she did die in Moscow. He just didn't go into, oh yeah, there's some Skrulls that are trying to kill us because they want the Earth for themselves. And so she wants him to take revenge on the people that did this. Now, in the chaos of the scene, in the aftermath of the bombing, they were able to take in a couple of bombers, and one of them just kept yelling, I'm an American, I'm an American. And I'm like, you really think they give a shit? But it's true. There are some people who are so caught up in being an American and think that they are so great just by virtue of being an American that it never dawns on them that if you're in another country, they couldn't give a rat's ass. If you did something illegal, they're going to go after you for it. It's not like being an American is just like immunity to anything and every type of consequence. So, so then Fury decides to go to visit Rhodey. And while this is happening, Gravik and Gaia are going to talk to the council. And we've seen a montage of people talking about what this means for U.S. and Russia relations and blah, blah, blah. So Gravik goes to this council, and a lot of the people that were in that montage were council members. So the Skrulls have completely taken over. And but Gaia isn't allowed into the council chambers, and one of them, the one who's pretending to be the NATO Secretary General, tries to lash out at Gravik, but he's quickly neutralized. So the only person who isn't going for the Gravik having absolute power over all Skrulls is this woman named Shirley. And I was surprised he let her walk out. I really was. So she leaves and immediately calls Talos. And Talos tells her that he wants a meeting with Gravik. And she's like, oh, you so do not want to do that. And he's like, yes, I do. Tell him I want to talk to him about my daughter. Which, on behalf of Gaia, I just, I feel for this girl. Because Gravik is already looking at her with suspicion. So, yeah, I don't know if he always looked at her with suspicion, being that she's Talos' daughter, or if because she found out the truth from Talos and started questioning, whether she's doing the right thing, that Gravik picked up on that. Because, again, I think he was trained by Nick Fury. And if Fury is that good of a lie detector, you'd expect Gravik would be too. So, we don't know if the meeting was arranged, but I can only assume it will be, because we've seen trailers where Talos threatens Gravik. So it's it's entirely possible. So that meeting's going to take place. Whether how long Shirley ends up breathing is a different story. Like I said, I was surprised that he let her leave the room. I really do. So, so after the meeting, Gaia is following Gravik initially until he goes in through some doors, and she sees Pagan and two, I guess, scientists working on something, and she's asking Pagan for if you have the harvest. We don't know what the harvest is, but they're building something. They're building a machine. And for those who know the comics, know what that machine is. It's to create Super Skrulls. And so Gaia, I have no idea why I keep doing that. Gaia decides to look things up on the computer, try to figure out what's happening. And Gravik catches her, but she quickly hides what she's doing. Now, Gravik still has no reason to trust her. He was already questioning her motives. Now, Talos had said last episode that she'd been missing for years. So I'm thinking that it's more of a Gravik has noticed she's acting different type deal rather than he's always been suspicious of her. So, but we see that they have Groot's DNA, they have, I'm blanking on one of Thanos' children. And Extremis? Something like that. Oh yeah, Frost Beast, Extremis, and one more. Now, so that's all we get from that. Then Sonya Falsworth, who I have to admit I really like her style. I really like her spunk, even if she is a terrible human being for what she did to torture this guy. I don't care if he's a Skrull. It's ew. And what makes it worse is he tells her the truth. So that's what gives people the impression that torture works. It in real life it doesn't, because you just tell people what they want to hear, whether it's true or not. So yeah, was not a fan of this scene, even though her joy in doing this was just delightful. I quite enjoyed that part. So she comes in to this butcher shop, and he's like, wait, that door was locked. She goes, yeah, and now it's locked. So she goes in back, tells everyone to vacate, gives the leader the phone that says, yeah, you're done here. So Sonya begins her torture, interrogation. First, she cuts off his finger to prove that he's a Skrull. And then she literally makes his blood boil. And he mentions that they're building a machine, and this married couple called the Daltons are behind it. So before she made everyone leave, she asked if there's an escape hatch. So she knew very well that Gravik was going to come for this guy. And so she hops through the hatch to make her getaway. Gravik comes in, guns a-blazing, and they are able to retrieve their friend. But Gravik doesn't believe him when he says that he only told her lies. And he also saw the escape hatch where she got away. I honestly thought he was going to go in after her. I really did. But no, they were taking him home. And the way Gravik was telling Gaia to drive, to keep driving, it was like she was a hostage. It was bizarre. So they take him out into the woods. Now, I don't know if while he was completely out of it, because you could see he was hurting, I don't know if he said something to make Gravik even more suspicious, or if he intended this from the minute that they extracted him. But Pagan takes him out to the forest and shoots him. And you can tell Pagan was not thrilled that he had to do this. Gaia, of course, was at the verge of tears. And the only person who was like, yeah, this is nothing, is Gravik. So, then we see Nick Fury meet after Rhodey has his meeting with world leaders, and they know that Maria Hill and Nick Fury were at the crime scene, which I have to admit, that is kind of sloppy for Nick Fury. This is the guy who you cannot find. If he doesn't want to be found, you're not finding him. So that is a bit of a sloppiness by him. But then again, Gravik was pretending to be Nick Fury, so Rhodey mentioned that they weren't there in capacity as U.S. officials, so even if they were there, he has no idea why, because, they're allowed to have personal lives. And Nick calls him from somewhere. Rhodey and his bodyguards are looking around trying to find where Fury is hiding. And I'm like, good luck with that. So in many ways, he is a bit discombobulated because he's playing catch up right now to try to find out what's going on so he can prevent what's going to happen from happening. But he's still playing catch up. So that's why people seem to think he's lost a step. Even Rhodey thinks that he's lost something. And in this conversation, I wasn't getting as much Skrull vibes, but at the same time, the fact that Nick Fury was asking him about his security detail, how much do you know about them? Do you think they're spies? And Rhodey being surprised, and turns out he knew about Skrulls 15 years ago. Then you're like, well, maybe he is the Skrull, because it never occurred to Nick Fury that Rhodey is the Skrull. He just thinks that the people around him are. So, yeah, still thinking he's a Skrull, even though he didn't do too much to give me that vibe this time. I mean, he did fire Nick Fury, claiming that this was on the president's orders, but the president did tell him to take care of it himself. So I don't think the president knew about that part. I think that was Rhodey. And yeah, that part seriously gave me Skrull vibes, especially the part about, I don't think the Skrulls have what it takes to take over the world or whatever. They're shapeshifters, Rhodey. What are you talking about? So, yeah. I still had some, but not as much as I did last episode. Oh, yes, and this was pointed out that Rhodey is walking normally, whereas after Civil War, Rhodey had to walk with this exoskeleton that Tony made for him because his back was broken. So that's another red flag that, wait, why is he walking normally? So even though Fury was questioning whether he should drink the bourbon, he still drank the damn bourbon. What is wrong with you? Why are you doing this? And when he sat down on the park bench after he left, I really thought that there was something in his drink and he was feeling the effects. But no, he's just an old man being an old man. But after he left, he was telling Rhodey that we can't call the Avengers because they might take their place and make them look like terrorists and make it look like they have their powers, which is comic book Secret Invasion. And so he says nobody's taking my DNA, and then manhandles one of his security guards. I don't know, did he take his glass with him? Because I'm sorry, but your DNA is on that glass, both of them. So, because he said no one's taking my DNA. Well, unless you took the glass with you, yeah, they're gonna have it. So he's then trying to figure out, okay, what to do now. And then we see him walking into this, nice, quaint house. And you see a Skrull cutting vegetables. He walks in, and then the Skrull changes into a woman. And it turns out that they are married. So Nick Fury is married to a Skrull. Now, the only way this makes sense is that they just wanted to show you that she's a Skrull. That's why they had her cutting vegetables as a Skrull. And then when Nick Fury comes in, she's back to her human form. Because otherwise, I guess you could question whether she's playing Nick Fury. But what I'd like to know is if he's been spending all his time since the blip up on the space station, what about her? I mean, did she know he was up there? Was she communicating with him? Because they certainly weren't acting like, oh, I haven't seen you in so long, or it's so good to see you, or something. It's that they were acting like they've been doing this every day for God knows how long. So, which makes me think that she actually had been visiting the space station because Nick Fury hadn't been visiting Earth. We know that. So, because otherwise he probably would have been more aware of what's happening. So, she's obviously been visiting the space station. That's the only way this makes sense. So let's see if there's anything I'm missing. Oh yeah, Gaia asks Gravik how he knew that Nick Fury was going to be there. He goes, I just knew. Now, that could be two things. Number one, he just knows Nick Fury, which I question because he thinks that Nick Fury wants to die. I'm not entirely sure that's true. I mean, it could be. I mean, we did see at last episode that he's still having a hard time processing the whole snap thing. So maybe, but I doubt it. Or definitely by the end of this, if he did want to die, he's not going to want to anymore. Let's see if there's anything else I'm missing. Hmm. I think I covered everything pretty much. Now, I really want to know what they're going to do with the Beto character, because he seems to be, you know, going out on missions with Gaia a bit more. So I wonder if this is going to be that he's going to get more hardcore as she gets even less, or how that's going to work. Because so far we've only seen him bits and pieces. Let's see. What else do I have? I think I covered everything. Um, yeah, yeah, I did cover everything. Oh, one more thing. This episode was called Promises. So we saw the broken promise that Nick Fury gave, which, I mean, if nobody in the galaxy wants them, was it really a broken promise? I mean, if it's out of your control, it's out of your control. But maybe you probably shouldn't have promised it, because, I'm going to try to find you a new home is totally different than I'm going to find you a new home. Because, yeah, apparently these people are not wanted. We don't know why. I mean, Shirley did say that going into a problem and just creating conflict and making a war is what got them in this position in the first place. But obviously not everybody is on board with that. So I'm not sure that that's the reason why there's a separate faction of these Skrulls plus the Emperor's Skrulls, because why have that distinction? So, that people like Talos and Shirley, you'd think that they would have stayed with the pacifists then and not be these worldless refugees. So yeah, I'm still wondering why they're not staying with the Emperor's faction of Skrulls. Um, let's see if there's anything else I missed. Um, I think I covered everything. So with that, I will see you guys next time.